5 Stoic questions that expose any lie intro. Some people talk endlessly because they fear silence will reveal their weakness. And then there are others who don't need to speak, yet their presence makes the whole room fall silent. A question, something so small, yet once made the entire city of Athens fall to its knees. Socrates never won through argument. He won through awareness, through questions that made even the strongest men look within. Today, we live in an age of assertions. Everyone wants to be heard, but few want to understand. Today, I'll show you 5 questions, and if you learn how to use them, you'll never need to argue to win again. You'll understand more, you'll stay calmer, and you'll become stronger. Take a deep breath. Stay silent and listen to the power of a question. Part 1. Hook and Inner Truth. These days, people don't argue to understand. They argue to win, to prove they're smarter, to avoid being seen as weak. Social media has turned every conversation into a battlefield. A post, a comment, a video. Everyone has something to say, but very few know how to ask. Ethan, a 28-year-old marketing employee in New York, used to be one of them. He read a lot, studied hard, and believed he was always right. Whenever someone disagreed, he fired back immediately. In every meeting, he needed to have the last word. Until one day, his company's director, a calm, gray-haired man with quiet eyes, looked at him during a heated meeting and said, "Ethan, you have all the answers, but zero understanding." That sentence cut through the arrogance he had built for years. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He opened YouTube and stumbled upon a video about Socrates, the man known as the greatest loser in history. Socrates never tried to prove anything. He simply asked, each question like a small blade, peeling away layers of illusion until only truth remained. "A statement can be wrong," he once said, "but a genuine question cannot be wrong." Ethan realized strength doesn't come from being right, but from being still. Not from talking more, but from understanding deeper. And that was the moment everything changed. When he saw that a question doesn't just silence others, it awakens the self. That night, Ethan understood. A question doesn't only quiet others, it awakens you. Part 2. Stoic Analysis. We live in an age of noise. Everyone has opinions. Everyone wants to speak. But few still know how to ask. Ordinary people use words to prove they're right. The wise use questions to find what is right. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone shows you the truth, be grateful even if it proves you wrong." That was something Ethan had never understood. He believed that winning arguments meant winning in life. But Stoic philosophy teaches the opposite. You never win when the goal is to prove. You win when the goal is to understand. And Socrates, the man who never lost a single dialogue, knew that truth well. He never sought to defeat his opponents. He used only 5 questions, 5 gentle blades, sharp enough to slice through human illusion. The first question: how do you know that's true? A simple question, but it shakes the foundation of belief. Most of us believe things we've never verified. We believe because the crowd believes, because someone told us so, because we fear being different. But when a voice gently asks, "How do you know?" the mind begins to tremble. The second question: what are you assuming? Every belief hides an invisible layer, the assumptions we have never questioned. People say, success requires a degree. but they assume everyone wants the same kind of life. People say, "I'm not good enough," but they assume there's someone better to compare to. This question doesn't attack, it illuminates, and light dissolves illusion. The third question: what evidence would change your mind? This is the line between a learner and a believer. If no evidence can change us, we are no longer thinking. We are worshiping the ego. Epictetus said, "No man can learn what he thinks he already knows." The Stoic does not fear being wrong. He fears being right, only in imagination. The fourth question: what would someone who disagrees with you say? This is the question of empathy, the foundation of true wisdom. When you can express your opponent's point of view better than they can, you not only understand them, you understand yourself. In the Roman army, a student once asked Marcus Aurelius, "How can I understand my enemy?" He replied, "By becoming him for a moment and watching yourself through his eyes." The fifth question: what would happen if everyone thought like you? This is the final test, where personal logic faces universal ethics. If everyone lied just a little, trust would vanish. If everyone excused their behavior with "everyone does it," who would be the first to stop? Socrates called it reductio ad absurdum, stretching a belief to its limit to see if it still stands. In every question, there is no attack, only awakening. Jake realized the power of a question isn't in defeating, but in revealing. Part 3. Practical application. But how can we use this Socratic art in today's world, a world of haste, anger, and fragile egos? 1. At work. When others argue, don't interrupt. Ask, what risks do you see if we did the opposite? This transforms conflict into collaboration. You're no longer commanding, you're guiding. 2. In communication. When someone makes an absolute claim, don't counter it. Ask softly, what evidence would change your mind? If they answer, nothing, you already know they've stopped thinking, and that's not worth your peace. 3. In relationships. When anger rises, don't ask to win. Ask to understand. What do you need most to feel heard right now? A question like that can save an entire relationship. 4. Within yourself. When your mind is restless, ask, what am I assuming right now that's making me suffer? Maybe you assume others must understand you. Maybe you believe everything must go your way. When that question appears, the ego goes silent, and truth begins to speak. Ethan began to use silence as a sword. Whenever someone grew angry, he simply asked and stopped. As Socrates once taught, silence forces people to hear their own thoughts. And he saw something miraculous. When he stopped arguing, the world began to change. Not because he became stronger, but because he began to see clearer. Part 4. Reflection and stillness. A year later, Ethan returned to the same meeting room where his boss once scolded him. The boss had retired, but on the desk, he left a handwritten note. Ask not to win, ask to awaken. Ethan smiled, because now he understood questions don't just change conversations, they change people. Socrates died for truth, not because he lied, but because he asked too many right questions. That is the price of wisdom. You may not be loved by the crowd, but you'll be respected by the truth. Questions are power, but every power comes with a price. And that's why Stoics never ask to prove. They ask to illuminate, not to silence others, but to awaken themselves. remember three things. Humility, be humble before truth. Curiosity, seek to understand, not to judge. Compassion, use wisdom to connect, not to conquer. And avoid four things. Arrogance, thinking you know it all. Humiliation, using questions to wound. Skepticism, doubting everything but believing nothing. Judgment, believing you are the only one who's right. One day when you face someone rude, angry, or controlling, don't react, don't lecture. Just ask and be silent. Because true power is not in making others hear you, but in making them hear themselves. Breathe in, exhale. Use questions to understand, not to win. And from this day on, let stillness be your strongest answer. Be calm. Be wise. Be stoic. Outro. One day when someone tries to make you angry, remember this. You don't need to prove you're right. Just ask softly and stay silent. For the wise do not use questions to wound. They use them to illuminate. Socrates paid with his life, not because he lied, but because he dared to ask the questions the world feared to answer. And perhaps that's why, after all these centuries, we still speak his name. Questions are power, but every power comes with a price. Use that power peacefully, not to win, not to control, but to awaken. If this lesson resonates with you, write 3 words in the comments. I choose awareness. Because those who choose awareness no longer fear any answer. Be calm. Be still. Be stoic.